Heyo, welcome back to another episode of the Boston Sports Brothers podcast. Great to be back for another episode. Gentlemen, how are you today on Veterans Day as we record? Everyone doing good?
Happy
Doing well,
Veterans Day,
Mike.
Doing
boys.
wonderful.
Well,
Excellent. And I want to kick off the show with thanking all the veterans and those who served in uh, all of our all of our military services over the past years and those who are currently serving as well, giving us the opportunity to live in what is undoubtedly the best country in the world and be safe from all the threats that are present in the world. So thank you to our veterans, and we sincerely appreciate each and every one of you. And we're also super excited. We have a sixth bro with us tonight. It is one Jeff Kolb, and folks may know him from his days at WJAR in Providence back in the mid 2015s to 2020, shall we say. And he is now working at Fox4 in Dallas and is one of their lead sports reporters covering all Dallas sports. And it's a great time to bring him on because there's been some crossover between Boston and Dallas sports. And we're going to get into Jeff's career. And Jeff, we can't thank you enough for joining us tonight. And we're going to get started with questions for Jeff in just 1 second, but I got to clear the air on a situation we had last week, and I think it'd be a little disingenuous if we didn't bring this up and sort of put a bow on it, if you will. So last week, it's obvious now we were supposed to have a guest that works for WEEI on, and it didn't work out. And we certainly understand that those things aren't going to work out. And so the first thing is there's no ill will towards WEEI. Like, you don't want to let somebody on, that's okay. There was certainly frustration in it, but no harm, no foul. I think, and we're accustomed to folks getting approval. And I think like WEEI, perhaps they've seen some things that we've said previously on episodes or excuse me, on the internet, but it's like all we're doing is commenting on sort of the status. And when you mix up your shows and when you have layoffs and when those sort of things happen, like it's public information that folks are going to comment on. And so those comments have been there, and there's no ill will. And I think it's want nothing but success for WEI. If you, as Kraz was saying beforehand, like their success in Boston is unrivaled until 98.5 sort of took over and the torch got passed to them. But from the early 90s till probably like 2015, like they were top of the totem pole, king of the castle. And so like there's no ill will, fond memories of WEI, but I don't know how we can say that it's the same that it was back then. And that's just what's been seen. So one day, hopefully we'll build a relationship with them. I think the goal is to like build up every person that you bring on and talk about their career. And that's what we're going to do with Jeff. And so with that being said, that's that on that whole situation. And we're moving on and we're moving forward. So let's get started. Jeff, Kolb, Fox4, Dallas. And Jeff, just give us a little bit of sense of your background, your career journey. You started out in the middle of Pennsylvania, covering high school sports with a handheld camcorder, and have worked your way up to a major news station in Dallas. So talk to us about that journey and what it's been like for you over 10, 15 years or so.
yeah, it's nice. Now I don't have to hold the camera. I have a camera guy. So we've leveled up. But even before Pennsylvania, and thanks again to you guys for having me on, I'm a Boston guy as far as went to school right in the heart of the city, Emerson College, studied broadcast there. So the Spark Notes version of it would be came out of Emerson. To get a TV job, you need a reel. And my reel, quite candidly, was not very good. And so nobody wanted me. So next step was, all right, well, what's plan B? How do we figure this out now that we're out of school? At that time, cell phones, iPhone video, really, you weren't putting together a reel with an iPhone back in 2012. So it's great. Okay, where do I find somewhere that will pay me a salary and give me camera access? So I took a job in South Central Pennsylvania, a town called Chambersburg, south of Harrisburg. Not a whole lot going on down there. Some horses and buggies backing you up on the road. And we were covering high school sports. It was low key, but did that for a year. And after a year with the mom cam, the soccer mom cam, finally had a reel that somebody at a actual television station was interested. And so then I moved to Michigan to, believe it or not, an even smaller town called Alpena, which for those who know Michigan, it's the mitten. So you've got Detroit. We were way up here on the mission and on the mitten in Alpena. It was negative 35 with wind chill on Christmas. So that was
Love
fun.
it.
That was blister even for a guy from the New England area. So
Was it
did
one of
that.
those things where you could like throw water outside and it would
Oh yeah.
freeze?
Oh yeah.
That's
And
crazy.
you budget like a solid 15, 20 minutes to get the car dusted off, de-iced, every morning. And I remember in that apartment I lived in, actually, it didn't have laundry in the apartment. So, you had to go to the laundry
Wow.
room, which was down the hill. And so
Oh
there was
God.
always the threat of just eating shit, trying to take the laundry hill on the ice path or coming up the hill, and you might have to do the laundry over. So, uh, did 6 months there and moved back home to Rhode Island, really without a job, and took a job at the NBC station, NBC 10 WJR, as you mentioned, Josh, behind the scenes in news. I always wanted to do sports, sports anchor and reporter now, as you said, but took a behind the scenes job in news and sort of thought it would be stopgap. Hey, I'll do this for a few months, take some job out in middle of nowhere, North Dakota or whatever, and go from there. But a couple of months in, the bosses knew that I had done some sports, and all the sports guys asked for a day off in August, and they said, "Hey, can you fill in?" And so I said, "Okay," and did it. I was nervous. Providence was, believe it or not, a much bigger market than Alpena, Michigan, and survived that first show. Was super nervous. I tell people I blacked out, even though I kept reading. It's a real thing, and got another crack a few weeks later, worked my way into doing all sports at Channel 10, which was awesome. That was right during like Deflategate, the Malcolm Butler Super Bowl. So that was a lot of fun covering the Pats, covering Brady in New England. After that, after a couple years, wanted a higher position, better position in a sports department. So I moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, which a lot of people scoff at. They say, "Oh, that's where Chandler and Friends gets banished to," but it's really not that bad.
The Tulsa
And
King. Have you ever seen that?
I have not watched the Tulsa King. I need to with Sly Stallone. So
It's
I've heard good
very good
things.
show. Very good show. Yeah,
Yeah,
highly recommend.
Tulsa's a cool spot, and I really lucked out. 3 years there, covered Oklahoma Sooner sports among other things, and so that was Baker Mayfield in the Rose Bowl. Going number one in the draft. Kyler Murray number one in the draft. Trey Young. So that was awesome. Was there for 3 years, and then I've been in Dallas now since May of 2019. So pre-pandemic. For a while there, I had done more television like this, like from my apartment during COVID, than in the studio. But it's been awesome. The Cowboys are a juggernaut. They're a dumpster fire, but it's a blast to cover. Jerry Jones is like the most exciting person I've ever gotten to cover, even when he drives you crazy. Covered a World Series, of course, with the Rangers winning last year, which was awesome.
Yeah.
As you boys know, obviously covered an NBA Finals this summer, Celtics and the Mavs, and covered a lot of hockey with the Stars, and it's been awesome. It's really a dream gig. So Dallas is a great sports city, much like Boston, and I'm just super blessed to have a job like this.
Yeah, so Jeff, you brought up Jerry Jones. I wanted to talk about him a little bit further, just because in Boston and I think around the country, many people picture him as maybe like this villain type, or just an evil owner, I guess you could say. What has your relationship been like with Jerry Jones, and how could you prove the haters wrong?
Interesting. Um, I don't know that I'm here to prove the haters wrong. I think that's
You
I'll
don't
leave
have
that up
to.
to the
I
to the
respect that.
I'll leave
Yeah.
that to the hater jury. But I'll say this for Jerry Jones: he loves the media, and he treats the media for the most part very well. And he's a fascinating person because he might rip your head off or come close, and then a few days later, it's like, oh, we're cool, like nothing ever happened. So, as far as being a villain, I mean, anytime you have a franchise that calls itself America's team, I think first of all that will lend you to mass hatred all across the country, because people are gonna be like, "Who's to say this is America's team? Chiefs, they're America's team. The Patriots were America's team." Um, and I think there's probably a jealousy factor with Jerry. He's a billionaire guy, and I think it's very interesting when you analyze the perception of Jerry locally here in Dallas versus nationally. And I'm always curious, to your question, Gabe, about like what is the perception around the country of Jerry Jones. Here, people are frustrated as hell with Jerry Jones because of his stubbornness, because of things he says and doesn't follow up with actions. Like, his mantra this year has been, we're all in, we're all in. Well, then, they didn't do anything in free agency. Derrick Henry lives here in the offseason. He wanted to come to the Cowboys, and they didn't get it done. And, you look at the trade deadline just now, Amari Cooper and DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, they're all getting dealt. And then the Cowboys just sit on their hands, and Jerry trades for Jonathan Mingo on trade deadline day, who's like the 126th rated wide receiver out of 126 that's been in the league since he came in. So, yeah, as far as Jerry and being evil, I don't think he's evil. I think he's a business guy, just like any other owner. And honestly, he might be the greatest owner of all time when it comes to business. I mean, this guy, I think he bought the Cowboys for maybe like 400K. And I was looking at the numbers actually during training camp. So they haven't won the Super Bowl in 28 years. In that span, he has increased the value of his franchise by $10 billion. First sports franchise in the world to be worth $10 billion. So the guy's a genius in that department. But if you're a fan of the team, and clearly he doesn't get the job done year in and year out, it's pretty frustrating. But nationally, I don't know. It's interesting that people hate the Cowboys. They're on TV a lot. Everybody wants to beat the Cowboys. So I think it's just natural.
Do you think the problem is coaching? And do you think there's any chance Belichick has a chance of coaching there?
Fascinating question, Josh. So there's multiple parts to this. So as far as the coaching this year with Mike McCarthy, he has not done the best job. However, I think that he was given about as unfair of a hand by Jerry Jones as possible, because this is what happened. McCarthy, 3 straight years coming into the season, you go 12-5. Now that hadn't happened since the Cowboys had last won a Super Bowl. So that's big. The playoff success hasn't been there. I think 1-3 in the playoffs. Here am I trying to work my brain on a Monday. So McCarthy has done a great job, but you let a bunch of guys leave after last year. Tony Pollard leaves. You bring back Ezekiel Elliott, who, I mean, you guys saw what he did with the Pats last year. So he's supposed to come back and be your lead back. So basically, to sum it up, Jerry Jones said, all right, McCarthy, you have to go and do better than 12-5 and a division round exit with a worse roster. So that's not fair. But McCarthy, there have been a couple games, even before Dak gets injured here, which pretty much season's over. There were a few games when you look at, like the 49ers game that they lost, where like no Christian McCaffrey, no Brandon Ayuk, and you still go and lose when really that was your best shot to beat the Niners. You were up at halftime. So he hasn't done a great job. As for the Belichick part, I think that's a long shot. And the reason being is Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is the general manager. That's the number one thing everyone wants around here, wants him to give up. Give up control as the GM. Give up roster control. Now, Belichick, as we all know, for anyone that's followed the Patriots, for a long time in his tenure after they won a couple of rings, he had roster control. So he wouldn't have that here. Now, I will say, watching Belichick, on ESPN, all the different shows he's doing on, the Manning cast and whatnot, I think he's trying to rehab his image as, hey, I'm not this cringy old guy who can't relate to the young people, and I'm not just like a total hard ass. But I just find it a long shot to see him and Jerry working well together. I think more likely is like a Deion Sanders, which I think would be a total mess. And Deion says he doesn't want to come to the NFL. He wants to stay in college. But I think Deion's out of Colorado after this year. So bottom line, Jerry, he wants to hire someone that will drum up the entertainment, the excitement. Belichick, Deion, they would do that. I just don't know if Belichick would be in on that.
Makes sense. I mean, I don't know if they could get along and make that work given their management styles.
But I will say, just quickly to follow up on Belichick, the guy wants to get to that all-time wins total. So at some point, you've got to take a job to do that. And I don't know how many teams around the league want to give Belichick all that power once again anyways. So maybe if that's the way it is, I mean, you saw he went over, the last round of coaching hires. Maybe he will take the job here and say, whatever, Jerry, make whatever roster you can for me, and I just want to get my record.
Well, Jeff, I think that's very interesting because I think one of the things that we all have noticed is that a lot of the jobs that are going to be opening up in the league are going to be not really the most attractive teams. Dallas, for the most part, is an attractive team minus the GM and Jerry, right? So if he is going for that all-time wins record, maybe he swallows his pride and says, "Hey, Jerry, let's partner together." Do you think Jerry may not be willing to give up the GM role, but would be willing to have more of a partnership with someone like Belichick, knowing what he's been able to do in the past?
No, I don't. No, I don't. And Jerry's been at it like this for 28 years. I mean, this guy is a multi-billionaire. You know, he runs the show. No other owner in sports right now does it this way. I mean, I'll put it this way to you guys. This is one of the big stories coming out of the game yesterday. If you watched, CeeDee Lamb missed catching a touchdown because the sun was blinding him from the windows at the west end zone of the stadium. There are curtains inside Jerry World. Jerry refuses to put the curtains down. Why? Because he says so. He cost himself a touchdown because of this. And after the game, when he was asked about it, he was like, you know, people knew about the game and the schedule and the kickoff time for a year. You know, both teams have to deal with it. It's ridiculous. Not only even to the players, but like the poor fans are just like, you know, shading their eye. You paid $300 to sit, you know, somewhere close to see this game, and you're blinded by the sun. So if he's that stubborn, he won't even put the curtain down. I don't think he's giving up GM control. This is also a guy who, you know, held a grudge on Jimmy Johnson. Just last year, shockingly, put Jimmy in the Cowboys Ring of Honor. The guy, Jimmy Johnson, is in his 80s. I mean, this guy, you know, could have, you know, not to sound morbid, but like kicked the can and never seen that moment. So that's Jerry Jones in a nutshell. You know, I asked Jerry a question after the Lions game about, you know, what it would take to make a coaching change in midseason. And he kind of popped off and he's like, "Do you think I'm an idiot? You know, I'm going to talk about that," which was kind of thrilling. You know, people, I think, were worried for me. I'm like, no, this is fun. But no, I don't think he's an idiot. He's stubborn. Jerry Jones is stubborn, and he will not give up that power. No way.
Curtain gate.
Curtain gate.
So Jeff, I gotta chime in. Like you mentioned before, you know, you were covering, you know, Dallas, the Rangers. You've seen, you know, coming from Rhode Island, you've seen, you know, the Red Sox win, you've seen the Celtics win. When in a season do you really get the sense that a team's going to be or has that kind of championship pedigree built into them?
That's a great question. A lot of times you don't. A lot of times you can't. I mean, there have been Cowboys teams that I've covered here. You know, the first, what was it, 22? I think they were the 2 seed. Garoppolo comes in here as the 7 seed with the Niners, and it's like, okay, this is the year. This is the Cowboys year, and they just, you know, bleep the bed, you know. So take the Rangers winning the World Series. I mean, they were so high and low, high and low. A lot of times, I mean, we've seen it watching all sports playoff runs. I mean, sometimes a team just catches fire. The Rangers, they had lost the division on the last day of the regular season. And so then they had to go to Tampa, which was a good team. And it's like, yeah, they're probably just going to lose 2 quick ones and it'll be done. And then I think they went 11-0 on the road in the postseason and won the World Series. They went down 3-2 in the ALCS to the Astros. And it's like, you're going to Houston. All right, this will be wrapped up tomorrow. They win 2 in Houston, make it to the World Series. So I don't know that there really is a time, you know. I think you get teams like the Chiefs right now who they get to a point where you're like, I'm not going to bet against this team like ever again. I mean, last year, like the Chiefs didn't have that look in the regular season. And then what do? I mean, they go win it all. So it's like the Chiefs shouldn't be undefeated right now, but they are. I just, you know, I love the Lions. If I was going to pick someone, you know, on paper right now to win the Super Bowl, I'd pick the Lions. But I wouldn't feel good as a Lions fan against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
No, and Dan Campbell kind of cost them last year with some of his decisions, but that's the way that they won a lot of games.
Love Dan
He
Campbell.
stuck to his guns. And I give him
He's
credit
aggressive.
for that.
Guys, you had a follow up. Go ahead.
No, that was
you
it.
had a follow up.
Oh no, I was just saying that Dan Campbell was aggressive
Yeah.
Well, he wants to bite your kneecaps off. So
with the bat.
So Jeff, I mean, I'm speaking for myself, but I didn't think the Mavs were gonna make it to the finals last year. Speaking kind of to what Sam was saying, like you're not sure when your team is gonna make it to the finals and make it a championship run. And you being from the Boston area, you got to experience that last year. What was that like being a fan of the Celtics growing up and having to keep your fandom a little bit at bay, being a Dallas reporter? Or
Well,
did you
that's
even?
interesting. I agree with you first, Josh. I didn't think the Mavs would make it to the finals. However, sort of to your point or idea too, Sam, like there was a point late in the regular season where it was like, seems pretty hot. Like they've won a lot of games. And you've got, when you have a player like a Luka or a Patrick Mahomes, it's like, it's hard to bet against, that. So, as for the finals, and it pains me to be honest about this, but when you work in media, I think for most people, like your fanship does decrease. Like I can't ever imagine anything being more emotional or meaning more for me in sports for the rest of my life than the '04 Red Sox. Like I'll never like cry over a championship ever again like that. And like throw in 28-3. I mean, obviously, like that's like super historic and amazing, but it's weird because first of all, Mavs are in the Western Conference. So like me growing to like them and, root for them a little bit, even though I pride myself on being an unbiased journalist. Like that's cool, right? Same thing in hockey. Like, I like the Stars and, they're not like playing in the division with the Bruins. So I like both teams, obviously like gun to my head, I'm going to say Celtics for life. But yeah, it's like it wasn't like '04 Red Sox for me. It was cool. I didn't think there was much suspense to the series. I thought it could have been a sweep. It was actually pretty interesting. I was at games 3 and 4. I didn't get to make the trip for our station to Boston, but game 4, I'll tell you guys, people flew in. People from Boston traveled. They were ready to party and celebrate the sweep here. And there was a lot of green that, I mean, obviously the C's got the doors blown off them in that game. It was interesting. It was really interesting. But I was glad, I was very happy to see Tatum and Brown get over that hump. I think that was sort of the emotional storyline, those guys being so close, the chatter about like breaking them up. You just didn't know. You don't know if it will actually happen for those guys. So glad it did. And hopefully they can do it again. But I don't know, man. Like the NBA, there's a lot of like strong teams early on. You see Cleveland and Phoenix is finally getting their act together. So
Cleveland started on Cleveland.
Cleveland. We'll talk about them
God.
later.
I will say though, there's a great chance that we do see a rematch in the finals this year. The Mavs added a great piece in Clay.
Yep.
You have someone like Derek Lively, who was one of the best rookies last year, who continues to get better game after game. So I don't want to necessarily write off the Mavs and say that there's not a chance that they can get there. The West, I think, is wide open.
West is
but
better.
but the Mavs have a great opportunity to make it back to the finals.
I agree. And I think underrated is the head coach, Jason Kidd. And so honestly, Dallas is not off to a good start. 5-5 now, I believe. And so after Friday night, they lost at home. Jason Kidd, he went off. I've never seen him like this. And like Jason Kidd, when you listen to him in a press conference, he like, I want to say the wrong thing, but like he sounds very low key, like low voice, kind of like, he's never going to get like animated. He starts like throwing the F bombs around, but like in that low voice where it's like, shit, like I would not want to cross this guy. He called the team out. And it's like, you love that. Like game 9 out of 82, and he's already like, going for the jugular with his guys. So I like that. They did get better, but I think the West is better too. I do.
Monty's kind of had to do that for the Bruins this year. He's kind of had to have that flair.
Love Monty, by the way. Monty was here a couple jobs ago with the with the Stars. Had him in studio. Tough exit for him here, but seeing him kind of get his life back on track has been good with the Bruins.
Yeah. Last question from me or from us is, can you describe someone that's been a sports media presence that you've looked up to throughout your career?
Oh man, that's a great question, Eric. There's been a lot. There've been a lot. First ones that come to mind, I'll talk relationship wise. Kevin Burkhardt has been a really, really good mentor, friend. It's one thing about like getting advice. Sometimes just getting reciprocation from someone in a higher place means a lot, like whether it's a text back, a like on a post, it kind of gives you a little confidence, right? Like this person respects me. Like, if Kevin Burkhardt, I mean, I'm watching the guy call the game with Brady, if he is willing to answer my text and give me time of day, that's meant a lot. And I've let him know. I really appreciate KB. He's just a great guy. Sometimes I think we watch these games or these broadcasts and you kind of wonder, like, man, I wonder if that guy's really a good person. Kevin Burkhardt is. Not never once when I'm, at a baseball game or a football game that we're both at, does he like not, at least give me like the, hey, what's up from afar. As far as work, what I always have like loved and dreamed about doing the most is the feature work. So, if you guys remember, like when SC featured and E60, those were like big platforms with ESPN. Tom Rinaldi, it's always somebody that I've really like admired his work. And, I think even more now that he's with Fox, sometimes people like poke fun at him. It's like, thanks, Tom. You're just trying to make us cry again. But he's just great. He's great. I actually am the chairman of this committee through the Society of Professional Journalists, this sports committee that they have. And it's been a really cool opportunity, somewhat, similar to what you guys are doing, where we have like these prominent sports journalism people on. And Tom was a guest of ours earlier this year. And that was like, I told my co-chair, I was like, you got to let me lead this one. Like, this is my guy. This is my dream. And he was so awesome. He's like, usually they run about an hour, these events. And he spent 2 hours with us. And again, another guy that's given me time of day. So, there's only so much advice you can take from anybody. I think, it's more about like taking the little nuggets you do and like how you use that. But those interactions, they mean something. They do. And those are two guys that I can point out that have been great. And then, there have been a lot of other people at lower levels, people that I know that you guys just wouldn't, that are, have worked with me more directly in my jobs that have been key. So, but no, I'm grateful for all those people. But KB, Rinaldi, great guys. Those are two of the good ones.
Yeah, those are the work that both of those people have done is truly tremendous. You talked about SBJ Sports, so that's like is that open to anybody that's interested in attending? And talk about Free for All as well, which is sort of your feature show on Fox.
Yeah, so I'll start with SBJ Sports. So it's free, open to anybody. You can find us on social media. We're on Twitter and Facebook. And yeah, these are, like I was mentioning, hour-long events. We're due for one. I need to get one set up. But we've had some great people on, like Ken Rosenthal, Susie Kolber, Field Yates, who's a New England guy, Mina Kimes, Adam Schefter we had on at one point, which was interesting. He was very interesting to have on. That guy's on it all the time. Unbelievable. So that's really cool. And if you hop on my social medias, my Twitter is Jeff Kolb TV. I have links to all of that there as well. And then Free for All, as you mentioned, Josh. So that's our show at Fox4 here in Dallas. Which, if anyone was ever interested in, you can go on our website and stream our shows for free as well, or the Fox Local app. But Free for All, it's really cool. So all the other TV jobs I've had, which this is my fourth in local television, it was more of like your traditional standard sportscast, like, hey, here I am for the next 2.5 minutes. This is the news and the highlights. Free for All is awesome because we do about a 15 to sometimes 30-minute all local Dallas sports show. There's guest segments. We have other different, fun stories and things we do. So it's great. It's really been an awesome opportunity for me to sort of cover and tell stories about our Dallas teams like you would see on a network level, like an ESPN, and it's been awesome. It's been awesome.
I knowing you personally and the ascension of your career and where you started, and actually seeing you in Pennsylvania when you were out there to where you're at now has been like an awesome journey to see from afar. And the success that you've had is much deserved, and really can't thank you enough for jumping on with us. So we're gonna end things here with a lightning round, where each of us have one question for you, and the first thing that comes to mind is all you need to say, and it'll be quick, and we'll get you out of here on that. Sound good?
As long as you don't get me in trouble, it sounds good.
No, there's no troubling questions here.
I was so close.
No, we're good. Gabe, kick it off.
So yeah. So I don't know if any of us have been to Dallas, but one of the big highlights there, as we know, is probably barbecue food. What's the best barbecue food you've had in Dallas, if you eat it?
It's called like a place or the food.
Both.
The place.
Okay, the place is called Cadillac, not like the car, like Cadillac, like the.
It's a good play
And
on words.
I like
yeah,
that.
yeah. One thing that's I know this is just lightning round one
No,
word,
that's fine.
but one thing that's interesting with barbecue spots is like they're big on we're making what we make, and when we run out, like that's it. This place Cadillac, they're open Thursday, Friday only for like 4 hours a day, and it's just in this like nondescript like strip mall. You like walk in, like this isn't much, and there's like 100-person like line weaving throughout. So Cadillac, that's my spot.
Love it.
Awesome. Next one's going to come from me. What's your favorite food spot in New England?
East Side Pockets in Providence.
So good.
Ooh, that's a
So
good
good.
one.
History,
What's your
baby.
what's your favorite thing from East Side Pockets? Because I love that spot. I used to go to Johnston and Wales in Providence. So
It's the Euro falafel wrap, the combo wrap, everything loaded. Get it every time. Usually when I fly in, it's like whoever picks me up, take me. I might fly into
Right to
Boston. Take me
Thayers.
right to Thayer Street. Take me right
Providence.
to East Side Pockets. I've got my
wow.
green East Side Pocket shirt.
You didn't even
Correct.
hesitate. That was impressive.
Oh,
Yeah, no questions there.
my mouth is watering right now. That wow. You just brought back memories, Chef. Thank you. I appreciate that. Who was your favorite or who's your favorite Boston athlete now or growing up? What do you all time?
All right, two answers. Now, even though he's retired, I'll go Poppy. I'll go
Love it.
Poppy. Love Poppy. Got to interview Poppy at the World Series, which was so cool. I have this like really awesome clip where like it almost didn't happen, and then like he had like 2 minutes before getting on set for like the pregame show with Kevin Burkhardt, and he like came over and like gave me this huge like dap. It was like the coolest thing ever. Like back in the day, it was Nomar. It was Nomar Garciaparra. He was like the first athlete I loved for sure.
And then to switch it up on you, not yeah, actually, past or present Dallas athlete since you've been working there.
Oh man, that's tough. First one that comes to mind is Emmitt Smith. And that's just because I've had some really cool opportunities to interview and work with him on a few different stories. So I'll go Emmett. But I
Awesome.
love Troy. I do love Troy too. Troy Aikman's a good dude.
And the last thing we'll wrap up on the best game or event that you've gotten to cover in your career.
Oh man. Two quick ones that come to mind. 2017 Rose Bowl with Baker Mayfield, favorite venue of all time. And then at the old Cotton Bowl Stadium here in 2020, the Winter Classic with the Stars and the Predators.
Ooh.
Like not like a very descript like Super Bowl or anything, but like again, atmosphere was unreal. And it was like I always think back to like around that COVID time. That was like the last big event I ever remember being at before it was like boom, the world shut down. That was unreal. So those would be my two.
Awesome. Awesome. Jeff, can't thank you enough for jumping on with us. It was a great conversation weaving in between your career, Dallas sports, Boston sports, the different intersections that I think we covered in terms of Boston and Dallas that's some we knew about and some that sort of came up here through our conversation. So everyone be sure to give Jeff a follow on the social media platforms, Twitter, and as he's Fox4 Dallas. Put that in your Google machine. You'll find everything you need from Jeff and the sports team there. So Jeff, can't thank you enough. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon down the road.
Thanks, boys. It was a blast. Appreciate you.
Take care.
Thanks for
We'll be in
popping.
touch.
Thanks for coming
Jeff.
on.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you.
Thanks for popping on.
All right. Jeff Kolb. That was awesome. I really was like fascinated
Great guy.
in the
Yeah.
great guy.
Yeah.
Last half hour or so, just like there's a lot of crossover between Boston and Dallas.
There really is. And
a lot of oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I don't think I realized how much success Dallas has kind of had alongside Boston. Maybe not capitalizing on all the championships, but still just like right up there year in, year out. It's pretty impressive.
Definitely.
Cowboys are always in the mix, right? Almost every year, barring this year, obviously. The Stars have been a really good franchise for the last 5 or 6 years, right? They haven't gotten over the hump yet, but they're continually pushing to the second or third round of playoffs. Mavs just went to the NBA Finals, and then Rangers just won World Series. So, yeah, it's not a bad time to be a Dallas fan for sure.
No, and as Maury Hurst-Gordon said, there's only like 12 or 13 cities that have all four major sports teams in them, and Dallas is one of those cities. So
Yeah.
definitely an elite sports city. Great conversation with Jeff, and now we'll sort of move forward into what we do on a weekly basis here on the pod, and right into Around Town on an exciting Victory Monday for the New England Patriots after what I felt was their best win. Other people didn't. They felt a Cincy win might have been, but I felt that this was a great sort of mid-season recalibration for this team with this win. So J-Mac, kick it off. We'll do our Pats segment and then jump into everything else we got to talk about on the week that was.
So Plotty, like you said, got to win. Pat's got to win yesterday on a Sunday.
Winner,
and
chicken dinner.
What, that's so 2 out of 3 now. So Pats are, in my eyes, they're building some momentum. Drake May, his first career win. Got to give him some kudos. Clap it up, everyone. Put your phones down and clap it up. Give him some kudos. So yeah, all things are great. I mean, he made his mistakes. That pick was atrocious. It was not a great decision, but he's gonna do that. He's a rookie. This is the time to do those, get those out of your system, learn from it. Still got the win. So I feel great about Drake May. He can run an offense, an efficient offense. Wasn't sexy, but I loved it. Defense came to play, which was great. They actually looked like they put a scheme together. So you have to give kudos to the coaching there, especially with that little what they call it today.
The Longhorn. They call it the Longhorn.
The Longhorn
package.
Yeah,
School of this. It's school
School
of
is the Longhorn package.
The Longhorn package.
Yeah. So yeah, it was sick. He got a sack. Pettis, whoever that guy is, not Andy Pettis, believe it or not, but that baseball reference for you youngins out there.
You mean Pettit?
Yeah, Yankees fans that wouldn't know.
So yeah, it was crazy. The team got a great win. The defense had 9 sacks. I'm happy. They ran the ball. Everything's good for me right now. 2 out of 3. Let's go.
I gotta give the coaching some credit here too, right? Like the Longhorn package was creative, right? Getting Schooler involved as a spy on Caleb Williams. Like I kind of give them credit. They looked and said, "Hey, when we've gone up against running quarterbacks in the past, we've gotten beat because we didn't have someone that could stay up with them." Got to give them credit for that. I'd also want to give Alex Van Pelt some credit as well. They had some interesting wrinkles on the offense. They had a couple trick plays that they tried to run. It was a pretty balanced call play as well. And it wasn't like every single first down was a straight up run, right? Like there was a little bit of nuance in the game, and clearly you could see that it resulted in positive things for the Patriots. So just want to give a shout out to the coaching because I think we've been crapping all over them all year, and rightfully so. I think it's also right for us to give them credit where credit is due.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, we've been crapping on the coaching staff a lot this season, but I mean, a lot of them are rookies coming in as, Gerard Mayo's a rookie head coach. So, like rookie players, they're bound to make mistakes, and it looks like they're cleaning it up a little bit. For me, what makes me feel even better about Drake May right now is how bad Caleb Williams looked. Oh my
awful.
God,
Yeah.
he looks
Ugly.
horrible.
Hey,
He can't even.
I thought we had the worst offensive
No.
line in the league. I think Chicago might have the worst offensive line in the league. Like that was brutal to watch.
But it's like the amount of weapons that this guy has
That's
with
so
Roma
true.
Dunze, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, he's got Cole Kmet, he's got DeAndre Swift. Like, come on, that's a loaded offense right there. And to not even put a ball even close to some of his receivers with most of those throws is just like, I think the Patriots might have gotten, like the right guy at number 3.
Yeah, Drake
Well,
May is progressing and Caleb Williams is regressing, and it's clear. Yesterday was clear.
I don't know
Yeah,
about you guys, but I wasn't sold on Caleb Williams coming out anyways. I kind of thought Drake May and Jaden Daniels were going to be better for us because I think we all knew that Caleb Williams was going number 1, but he was never someone that I earmarked to say, hey, he's going to be a great quarterback for the Patriots.
No.
It certainly worked out. Has worked out so far for our favorite crowds. What were your thoughts on the game?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I could just chime in and kind of repeat what everyone else said, but I was watching the post game and there was something that Tom Karen said that really piqued my interest, and that was that the Bears were expected to do all of these things and they're kind of shitting down their pants, and the Patriots weren't expected to do anything, and there's a little bit of optimism in the room, where the Bears wanted that optimism, and so I mean that that was my outlook on it. And I kind of thought about it and I was like, you know what? That kind of actually makes a whole lot of sense. Like we weren't supposed to have anything and we're actually making the correct steps forward that we need to make. Seeing Drake at the podium, I think post game is awesome. Definitely has his mannerisms like we all do. But the kid's competitor for sure.
Yeah.
I just think like going
Go
back
ahead.
to the podium, like the fact that he came out and like told everyone to like, hey, clap it up for the defense and like giving his teammates the praise. That's what you want out of a leader. And like I heard a story yesterday after the game where he went to Alex Van Pelt and was like, hey, like, can I say something to the offense? And basically took charge and like, basically asked for accountability from the rest of the team and they responded positively. I think, going into this, a lot of us here were don't play Drake at all this year. We all couldn't have been more wrong. I think it's fair to say that. And we are seeing him grow before our eyes. And
Mhm.
I think the sky is the limit here. We get him a better offensive line. We get some better talent around him. This kid can do some things.
To your point,
And they
Eric,
were
the team plays better around Drake May than they do Jacoby, and it's clear they've won 2 out of 3 games. And I mean, granted, the one of the wins Drake May really didn't play a whole lot, but still, you can see that they're playing and they're pulling for him, like you said. So he can control the room, and that's what you want from your third overall pick, your horse. Go ahead, Sam.
Well, I was just gonna say he actually had some veterans approach him and say that it was okay for him to speak, and Jalen Polk even approached him and was like, listen, even though we're rookies, like let's make our mark. And I think that goes back to what I said about what would be considered a success for this team, and that's just simply just finding an identity, letting these guys figure out who they are, what they want to be, and how they're gonna play their best brand of football at the end of the
I'd
day.
say I'd say the last 3 weeks have been successful, right? Like obviously he went out in that Jets game and Jacoby Brissett came in and won us a game, which we all thought we had no chance of winning. Last week we didn't win the game against the Titans, but Drake put on a end of the regulation touchdown drive that looked really good, which
Mhm.
we haven't seen anything like that around here in a while. And then this past week they clearly dominated. So I'm not saying I expect this to keep up for the rest of the season, but if we see positive developments like this, even through losses, that identity is going to form, Sam, just like you're saying. And we're going to be sitting here next year with Karen Grisian in the preseason saying, look at how great this team is set up for the future. Even though we may not be a contender next year,
Mhm.
we're going to be trending upwards and moving in the right direction.
Yeah, this was we had a little interaction with Teddy Bruschi on Twitter today, and it was exactly this. He sort of talked about this recent section of the schedule, 2 out of 3 here, and how it's looked. And it's almost like the wins are cherries on top, but you can feel like the identity and the momentum for the team shifting. Buy-in is huge, and Mayo they had a lot going on. I think they were all like new coaches, new team together, like the only thing that's frustrating, and sorry to take away from the positivity, is that if they could have gotten one more of those games that they lost, the Tennessee game or that Seattle
Mhm.
game, or even that, I think the
Dolphins.
Miami game, yes. If
Half
Jalen
talk.
Pope gets a foot down or something, like, then this team's 4-6 or 5-5, and you're talking like a completely different. And so the pros and cons in like the game of inches that is football with this team has been impacted on them throughout the season. But like we're 10 games in, they're 3-7. They had 4 total wins last year. They certainly have an opportunity to meet and surpass that. As Jonathan Jones said at the end of the game, let's stack some wins. If they can stack some
Well,
wins, then it's
Mhm.
a successful
Plotty,
season.
just to play devil's advocate there, if they had won that Miami game and if they had won that Seattle game, do we see Drake May and see all the progress we've made? So I want to say everything happens for a reason. I
Yep.
totally agree that like we could have had a better record, but I don't think we're looking at this season based on wins and losses. We're looking at it as are we looking like a cohesive unit in a real football team? And so far, the answer for the last 3 weeks is yeah, we're starting to look like one.
Yeah, Vegas had them at a 4.5 over under for season total wins, and they're already at 3, and what 8 games left to play or something like that. So they're trending in the right direction, and it's clear. And something to think about too about draft order wise, which I looked up, was just really interesting to me how down the league is. There's 14 teams that have a 4-6 record or worse. So the Pats are one of those teams, obviously at 3-7. But if they keep building a couple more wins, they're probably going to have maybe a top 15, top 17 pick potentially rather than a top 5 pick what we were talking about even 2 weeks ago. So, which is good. I think it's great. If you don't need a top, 3 pick to keep building momentum if you're actually seeing it on the field and you're seeing, like that throw he made when he was running out of bounds. Like that throw, how many quarterbacks can make that throw? I think Mahomes makes that throw, maybe one other quarterback, but like we're seeing it. We're seeing progress, and I don't I'm done looking at the draft and seeing like I don't want to anticipate where they're going to be. I don't want to be like, oh, I want the 3rd pick or the 5th pick. I want to see them progress and get some wins, and then we'll talk about draft later. That's my thought.
Wins over draft picks for sure. Any parting thoughts before we move on to Sam Krasner's esteemed tank top this evening in the Boston Celtics?
Just quick shout out to Joey Sly for having an awesome game yesterday. He like in windy conditions, which I think like went unnoticed. I mean, I think you could see it if you were watching the game, but like dude was nails, hit every single attempt that he had there. So just want to give him credit for a great effort in a tough condition game and just being balls, being
They were
nails.
talking about the wind and about how it like comes into the stadium, but it like gets shifted and then goes this way, and you can't even like plan for it like series by series. You have to plan for it like play by play.
Yeah.
That guy's got to be juicing it, right?
So
No.
he looks like it. That's for sure.
Oh my God.
I mean, so
Popeye.
shout out.
He's just yoked.
If you're gonna Eric, if you're gonna shout out Sly, I think you got to shout out the Behringer too because he had a great day yesterday. He was booting the ball all over the field yesterday. But to kind of also talk about the next 3 opponents that the Pats have, where to kind of build off my draft talk a little bit, is they have 3 potential winnable games in their next 3 opponents. The Rams, they're a good team, but any given Sunday, we know that anything can happen. They're playing the Dolphins directly after that, so it can have a little redemption potentially, and then the Colts after that. So I don't know. 3 potential winnable games coming up. They could build something here. As Karen Garigian said, this is what you want to see, and I think we're starting to see it.
Get to 5 wins before the bye, and that's a success. So find a way to win 2 out of these 3 games somehow, and that's a huge success.
It's possible.
It
It's
is.
really
100%.
possible.
No doubt.
Anything's possible.
KG, when did you show up here?
I don't
Speaking
know,
of
but I
KG.
think it's time to get right into the Celtics and how that team is doing after
We did it.
I got to listen to Brandy and Max on the way home from Rhode Island yesterday call that game, and it was one of the most entertaining radio calls that I've ever heard. Like the riffing that those guys have, and for the amount of time that they've been doing it, it was a pleasure to listen to a game, and an amazing comeback for the Celtics yesterday as well.
Giannis is a bitch.
Oh.
Indeed, we'll get right into that. Comeback versus the Nets as well, and then Big E was in the house for the game versus Golden State. So let's talk about the Celtics. Let's go sort of chronologically. So let's go back in reverse time and start off and work our way up to the Bucks game. And so Big E, take it away.
Yeah, first game that we had here was the Boston Celtics versus the Atlanta Hawks in Atlanta. Before we even get into any of the stats, Tatum was really disappointed in himself after the game. Killer Mike was courtside and didn't go say hi to him. So, he mea culpa. He'll say hi to him next time. But just in general, this was a beatdown from start to finish. I think, Al always has a good game against the Hawks too. But Headband JT was rocking out 28 points, 6 boards, 9 assists. We also had Derek White joining the Headband boys. He also had a hell of a game, 21 points, 6 boards, 6 assists. It killed Brown to not be playing in his hometown, but he had to work on the hip pointer stuff that he was going through. And then I think the big news of this week, and we'll get into the other games here with this guy too, is Neemias Queta is a player and does positive things on the court when he's out there. So good job by him. One last thing from this game too is just want to give a little bit of a shout out to our 6th man of the year candidate, Peyton Pritchard, balling out again, 25 minutes, 18 points and 3 trays from deep. And just, we dominated. So that's a little bit about that game. I can report to you about the Boston Celtics Golden State Warriors game. First off, want to just say in general, boots on the ground, Loge 7, great view, great seats. Had to bring the future father-in-law for his birthday, big Golden State Warriors fan. So he was really happy with the result because the Celtics lost 118-112. But in general, though, one of the best games of the season. The atmosphere was electric. Steve Kerr got his ass booed. Steph Curry got cheered, rightfully so, for all the stuff that he did for USA basketball and just his career in general. It was tight all the way throughout. There was probably a swing of about 10 points where either team would go up 10 points or down 10 points. Tatum really was not existence in the first, it was really not there in the first half. Came out crazy in the second half, put up 32 points, 4 boards, 2 assists. Kada was awesome. 14 points, 8 boards, and 28 minutes of play. Payne Pritchard also did a great job, was on the floor a lot, 32 minutes, putting up 16 points. Steph Curry, though, in the last 5 minutes of the game, he had a quiet 17 coming into the last 5 minutes, dropped 10 like it was nothing. I still think that if this was a team that we played fully healthy, whether that's just with Brown or just with Porzingis, we probably would have won pretty easily. So I'm not upset at the result. Candidly, it was okay because future father-in-law was pretty happy. So
That's Eric. I wanted to ask how the shit talking was throughout the game. Was it?
It was pretty cool. It was pretty cordial, to be honest.
Okay.
I will say,
was it
Alexis had
Dad?
it between us.
I was gonna say, was it Dad, Alexis, Eric? You had a
Yeah.
It was an Eric sandwich.
Yep. There were a couple times where they looked over at me because of how loud I was cheering. Like the stadium was quiet at one point, and I let a "Let's go Celtics!"
That's a classic.
They looked at me, and I knew the entire arena could hear me, and they were like, "Alexis, like my ears," and I was like, "Well, I got to get loud. It's my team."
Yeah, you
right?
gotta get the
So-
people going sometimes.
Yeah.
Even if you're-
Yeah,
Gotta get loud.
That's a classic
Yeah.
potty move. He does that all the time.
Classic.
Josh would know that's a classic Lebo move too.
Oh
so.
yeah, exactly.
You gotta get the people going sometimes. And if you can, if you put that loud voice to work.
Plotty, I honestly feel like you started the whole Uke to Mook transition because literally right around that time we all went to a game together. I think we actually went with Erky and you were just like Mookie and everyone just started doing it.
Give me a
Trendsetter.
They give me a Mookie guy. And that was like a big thing. He was like, every time Mookie would get a give me a Mookie. So everyone, so that was definitely it. But it was the guy who was getting everyone saying, "Give me a Mookie." But back we went
Back
way
to the
off
Celtics.
track there. Back to the Celtics. So and then they have that overtime game versus the Nets. Any stats you want to get into there, and then the comeback yesterday. But any game notes from those two, Biggie?
Yeah, just real quick, Tillman started that game. They didn't start Kada, who had started the previous two against Atlanta and Golden State. And I like Tillman, but you could notice that it was off right away, and they started playing Kada more in the second quarter and more in the second half. And he was a big reason that they were able to come back and tie that game up and win in overtime. So no shade on Tillman, but again, just want to heap some praise on Kada because he's been a gem in the rough. Or diamond in the rough. And then last game, which I think I would love for you guys to chime in on here a little bit, is Celtics Bucks. Kind of a 3:30 game, kind of on the same time as the Patriots yesterday. Down a bunch in the first half, so not looking great, and then ended up coming back. It was nice to see JB come back and return. Didn't have his best game. I know he's probably a little rusty, but overall, great effort. Tatum balled out, but would love to hear a little bit from you guys on your thoughts on that game as well.
Giannis is a biatch.
Yeah, that was Bush League with Giannis, and even the JT play was a foul that they missed, but the stupid handshake crap is just dude, what are you doing like that?
But the fact that it came right after he drilled him in the face with the elbow.
That was a hard foul.
Unsportsmanlike.
Old school NBA foul.
That should have been a flagrant foul. I've seen so many times where so many guys get that elbow thrown into their face, and that's actually a written rule. It's definitely a flagrant. And then he does that stupid shit. Come on, dude. Grow up.
Also, Jaylen Brown gets no calls. He gets no calls when shit like that happens.
I loved it.
Annoying.
Because he just woke up the bear.
Giannis is he's known to do that too. He kind of talks his shit a little too early, and then the team kind of crumbles after that. I think last year that happened with he got into it with Al Horford a little
2 years ago. You remember that?
Was that 2 years ago?
He got into it, and then Al dunked all over him, and it was
yeah. So
he got real into it. Yeah.
He's just kind of he is kind of a childish player. It's probably why the team is faltering right now and doesn't look great. So get your shit together, Bucks.
Hey man, it's pretty unbelievable that the Bucks are at where they're at, 2-8 on the year. I think that I heard today the Bucks are 19 and 27 under Doc. Like that's
Mhm.
awful. And they were 30 and 13 with Adrian Griffin
Yeah.
when they let
Yeah,
him
they
go,
were
which
good.
just makes no sense. No,
Also, want
that
to give really high highlight out to Drew Holiday. Seeing him cover up Dame, strip the ball
Yeah.
away from him in the last couple of minutes was great. Also, on the differential, Drew was plus 14 on the floor while Dame was a minus 14. So
Also,
thank you,
that series in
Milwaukee.
general is huge for Drew because they gave up on him for Dame, and they led Drew to Boston for him to win another championship.
He's a
So
silent killer.
I think-
He's a silent killer.
there's a lot of motivation there for Drew.
with the injuries, the backcourt has really powered this team. Holiday, White, and Pritchard have just been a fantastic guard rotation, and you're able to combo them together. Pritchard's really getting serious run at the end of these games as well.
Legitimate minutes too.
If he's lighting things up.
Get that bet in, buddy.
The biggest name that you obviously mentioned throughout every single game, Eric, was the emergence of Keita, and like it's awesome to see. There's no other way to put it. He reminds us of Rob Williams, I think, and just like the athleticism. He's kind of raw. Like he isn't refined quite yet. Like he's kind of a lob threat. He's definitely a rim protector. But he's obviously like still learning the game. But his emergence has been key, and we talked about that. Like he's sort of using the beginning of the season to like develop Drake May style, if you will.
He's going to get minutes in the playoffs. Like, when Porzingis isn't out and you need a rim protector, and I love Cornette and I love Tillman. Like, those guys are great. They were part of that winning team last year. Keita's got to be the guy that comes in to spell because he can actually protect the rim. Cornette's not bad and neither is Tillman, but they don't have the defensive ability that Keita does.
No, his athleticism for his size is
I agree.
Is an unbelievable asset. Anything else on the Celtics here? They roll into this week the NBA Cup begins.
Last thing is
NBA Cup.
I believe Tatum is leading the league in points, rebounds, and assists.
MVP.
So
MVP.
He's not going to get credit for it, but he should be the MVP frontrunner at this point in the season. But it's not going to happen because they're going to look at the Celtics and be like, "There's too much talent there to give anyone the MVP."
This team's 9-2. They just won the championship. Give him kudos.
Let's let the season play out. But if he keeps playing like he has, and he's even putting in efforts in games where he was 7-21 yesterday and still put up 31 points. Like that's pretty impressive to be able to do and get yourself to the line.
He got to the line a bunch.
Yeah. So he's having a great season. We have a lot of games coming up over the course of the next week. Atlanta in the NBA Cup. Who really cares? But good for them. They get some money at the end if they do.
No Trae Young.
And then Wednesday versus Brooklyn, Toronto, and Cleveland. So a 3 out of 4 at the Garden coming up here.
So tomorrow the floor will be all different?
Yes.
Yeah, it'll be gross.
Yes.
It'll be all green and fucking stupid.
They're going to wear terrible jerseys, I hear.
Oh, those fucking gross neon green. Oh, that. Give me the old. I want the ones with the parquet and the white. That's the ones I'm talking about. Those ones.
I want them to wear what you're wearing,
those.
Sam.
74,
Bring
baby.
it back. So next Tuesday is the second game of the what is it? The NBA Cup now?
Yeah.
And that's
The in-season tournament.
against Cleveland.
Let's go.
Josh's
Now,
favorite team.
I'm just saying they are 11-0 guys. They beat the Warriors.
I did look at their schedule. They did crush the Warriors, but who else did they play?
The Magic, the Knicks,
The shitty
the
Bucks
twice, the Pelicans, who are good.
Did
Yeah,
they play the Magic with Banchero or after Banchero went out? Just curious.
I'm looking at. You want me to pull up the box score? I'll pull
Was
it
it
up.
recently? Because Banchero went out like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago.
No, it's not recent.
So for me, Cleveland
they have
doesn't pose a
Chicago.
threat until they play us, and I want to see how that game.
No,
They
I
are
agree
athletic.
with
They
you,
can
but
shoot. They can play
but
defense. They're large.
But they're 11-0, and all I'm saying is that if they push the Celtics for home court, like that could be not the best scenario. That's all I'm
They
saying.
also might be a better opponent to us this year than the Knicks. Got to give the Knicks a little more time to gel, but Cleveland, they got some talent
the
on
Knicks
their
suck.
roster.
Hell yeah, they're not bad.
Cleveland's off to a good start. We can admit
Everyone
that,
forgets
for
too
sure.
that Jarrett Allen was hurt last year when we played them. So
We
like
can-
it's there. I'm not saying they're gonna. Again, 7-game series. Celtics. I don't think any team can take them in 7 games. But Cleveland's not a bad team.
Yeah,
I do think
Well,
Donovan Mitchell's the top. He's one of the best players in the league. So got to give them their flowers for sure.
Don't
Shout out
forget
Georges
there's
Niang.
Yeah, don't forget there's a 7-foot unicorn waiting in the stalls at Saratoga. That's they're putting him out on the track right now. I think they're giving him a couple runs around.
I think
And
Flavian Pratt is actually riding him.
No, I mean,
Oh,
Porzingis, is probably 4 to 6 weeks out if his Christmas timeline is on schedule. So don't
Let's
forget to
have
add that to
let's
the
have some
mix.
setback, please. Just some setback.
So hey,
let's not
I
will
don't
that into existence.
we don't rush it with him.
Setback.
But a team that does need to rush to get some things together is
Yes.
the Bruins here. Gabe, let's dive into it.
What a lovely note to end our around the league here. So yeah, the Bruins, as my friend J Matt says, somehow, some way, weathering the storm right now. Where the Bruins are sitting third in the East with a 7-7-2 record. That gives them 16 points. They're behind Florida and Toronto currently. Speaking of Toronto, the Bruins completely shit their pants there. Uh, we ended the last podcast. I was feeling pretty positive about them going into Toronto and giving them a hard time, and they lose 4-0 up in Toronto, and it's another disappointing loss, another no show for the offense, and you start to get a little concerned again. The roller coaster just keeps kind of going up and down here, but they bounce back. They go against the Calgary Flames, and they beat them 4-3 in overtime, which was, good game. Marshy scores the OT winner on a beautiful
Classic.
feed from Elias Lindholm. I mean, who else is going to score the overtime goal for the Bruins at this point? Marchand's the man. And then, yeah, I guess we got to talk about this Ottawa Senators game. That was another. We go back to another disappointing game. They lose in overtime 3-2. The Bruins the offense goes completely blank in the third period. Zero shots in the third period. They lose in overtime. 21 seconds into overtime, you have Ottawa scoring a goal to put them to end the game. The Bruins are lucky to scrape out one point from that. And here we are again. I mean, it's just another, meddling performance. I'm hoping for a week on the podcast that, there's a 3-0-0, week and we can have some positivity going. But as of right now, it's just there's just a lot of weird stuff going on. It's just not what everybody expected from the Bruins.
Zadorov
Completely.
looks awful. And he
Yeah.
also is just
He
like
looks slow.
you want to talk about leading like we lead the league in penalty minutes, right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
he's got, I think here 24 minutes, 29. Sorry, 29. Charlie's not a little bit too far behind at 20. Charlie will tend to get called for some things I don't always think are fair. But like everyone on the roster here has been in the box at some point, except for Brazo. Brazo has been good, but
So I think, like you said, Gabe, like they were 1-1 the last week. They pulled out what, three points out of a possible six. Like they're building points, but they're not good points in my opinion. Like the 20 plus minutes of not getting a shot is just really bad. Like Ottawa's not a great team in my opinion. They're not that
No.
Florida or Carolina status that, really pressures you. And the fact that they can't even get a shot on goal is just, that's really concerning to me. The power play needs to get going. They're sitting at 28th in the league at 12.5%. That's really, really bad. Weren't they, I think, even as far away as 2 or 3 years ago. I think they were tops in the league in power play when Bergie was here. So since he's left, they've really have not been able to figure out the power play. And then, like you said, are leading the league in penalty minutes. Like that's just uncharacteristic. You got to figure that out. So just the points that they're building, they're not great points, and they're sitting in third. And I don't know. This team is a very middling
Yeah.
team to me.
And I heard something interesting. It's like Don Sweeney kind of brought these guys in more for the playoffs. Zadorov is better in the playoffs because everything tightens up and it gets more physical. Same with Elias Lindholm. He's a kind of more of a plays better in a tight space. And it's like, bro, you got to get to the playoffs first to be able to showcase that. And I mean, how many times have you seen Zadorov just get spun around on his skates and just like it just leads to a crazy offensive opportunity for the other team. And they need to start figuring their shit out, and soon. They're lucky that the league is kind of meddling along as well. That plays in their favor. So now they're having a little bit longer to figure it out. But we got to see some changes here. And speaking of changes, Matthew Patra got sent down to Providence, which is
Nice pronunciation, Gabe.
Thank you. I've been working on it. I
Well,
say it in my
Providence?
head like over and
No,
over.
Patra.
God.
No,
Couldn't
I
say
know, I'm just fucking with
Padre.
you.
So
And a
like
partridge and a petri.
exactly, and it's like that's a guy that we thought would be a top 6 forward coming into the season, and now you've got him down in Providence, and the offense is just looking bleak, and
Yep.
Well,
it's a problem right now.
I think two other folks you got to call on out for being underperformers and just not being great this year. Zaka, 3 goals, 3 assists. He had been performing much better over the previous 2 years. And Charlie Coyle, 3 points, 2 goals, 1 assist, just like not doing what we need from the center position. So, I think we all felt much better about the center position coming in this year with Lindholm coming in, knowing that we had Coyle there, Beecher, and Zaka. I don't really feel great about the center position right now. So could they turn it around? Absolutely. But I wanted to call out those two specifically because I just feel like they've been a big part of why the team has not been where they need to be. If they play to their expectations, we might be looking at it like a 9-5-2 team, right? So, which makes all the difference in the world.
You're right, and also Charlie McAvoy is more worried about his hairline than fucking being an assistant captain. So
go see Matthew Leonard.
Yeah, Matthew Leonard does great work, but I just need some more
Just
focus.
shave it off.
It needs some
Fuck that.
need some more focus on the ice here from our
Yes.
boys, and
Yes.
Yeah.
that's all it comes down to.
Same with his counterpart behind him, Swayman. I think he needs to get a little bit more focused, Sue. So
Completely agree. And it's on the players, and this team has got to get rolling here, but they're in a position where they haven't completely fallen off the wagon. So, a week or two can change things drastically for the team. Baseball wise, Kraz, I know you have this is some insider trading here on the Boston Sports Brothers. Kraz has been working on a little more content for the pod in the form of the written, and has a blog that we will soon be publishing. We're just getting our ducks in order in terms of where exactly that will live, but it will be available soon. And he's going to be covering some baseball and stories for the pod. We've read the first one. It's fantastic. And Kraz gets to have a fantastic outlet there. But so Kraz, anything you want to chime in on that? And any quick baseball offseason minute, if there's anything at all. I think it's pretty
actually
cool.
little bit of news. The Red Sox have hired a baseball mechanist. Yes, a mechanist. But
what is that,
actually honestly I think it's someone that has the same degree Gabe and I have in kinesiology, to be completely honest. They just have a master's in it. That's really
Work
what
on
I think it is.
physics of movement and
Yeah, pretty much.
so
But
what's he
the
doing?
biggest
What, like,
figuring out how not to tear their UCL from fucking spinning the ball so much. Who knows? But the bigger news is that kid Roki Sasaki. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right. From he plays in Japan,
right?
Sasaki. Yeah. He's 23. He's a young kid. Breslow flew out to Japan to go and scout this kid. Let me look at my numbers right here. I believe he went. I know he had he had a 2.76 ERA. He went 10-5 this past season. The kid's 23 and he's the complete package. Like I said, it's going to be starter or bust. That's really what's going to define this team this year. So that's really it as far as baseball.
I heard the Dodgers are in on him too. The Dodgers always get the guys they want from Japan.
So is that a bidding war? How's that go down?
I personally think it will be, and the Sox are going to have to outbid, and they're going to have to outbid by at least probably 10 million, because who's not going to want to join the Dodgers?
John Henry, open up that wallet, buddy.
Hey,
good luck.
You want to know what? They've been talking a lot, and I think the narrative out there from what I've seen is that the agents feel that the Red Sox have a different tenor to them this offseason. So maybe that's going to play in our favor. Look, they have to make something happen. We've acknowledged that multiple times on the pod here. And now's the time. They're getting their ducks in the row. The winter meetings and all that fun stuff gets started shortly. So it's good to hear that they're in on these kinds of players and have interest in making these sorts of visits and committing to going halfway around the world to see if it's worth it or not. So I'm all for it. Bring it on. Let's have an off season. let's sign some players. Let's go into next year looking forward to baseball instead of what we had to deal with this year. I think that's my mantra with the Red Sox offseason. And with that being said, let's talk Ohs, oh yeahs. Anyone have anything from this week? Go for it, E. You take it. This is your
Eric,
segment.
kick us
Well,
off,
guys,
baby.
this is time for Yaos. Oh yeah! I got a couple oh yeahs for you guys.
Rip 'em.
First off, want to give an oh yeah to the Longhorn and Brendan Schooler because just cool to see it involved. Thought that was like really creative of the coaching staff, and sometimes you got to take a player who's well at another part of the game and put them in at a different phase of the game, and they perform. So good job, Brendan Schooler. Other oh yeah, want to give an oh yeah to Sam's tank top here. NBA Finals, 1974, champions, beautiful. Let that chest hair flow, brother. Let it flow.
I got an oh yeah. Oh yeah. Happy birthday to the one and only Josh Plotkin.
Oh yeah.
I
Oh,
saw that,
yeah.
my friend. Happy
Celebrated a
brother.
birthday on Saturday. Couldn't be more proud to be working on this podcast with you and just having an amazing friend, and happy fucking birthday, dude.
After a Friday wedding too.
Agreed.
Wow. And as my mother-in-law acknowledged, now for eternity, it will be their anniversary into my birthday, which is I never thought about that. So interesting if we're going to be together during those times. But yeah, it was a great weekend with family and friends. And we'll certainly get together soon enough to celebrate soon. So great weekend. Appreciate you guys. That was very kind of you. Anything else on the oh yeah O train? That's all right. It's been a relatively pretty good week here. So no Ohs ain't the worst thing in the world. And as we talked about at the top of the episode, oh yeah, one more to all the veterans and to everybody serving in the armed forces. We appreciate
Jimmy
all that
Bo.
you do for our country. Yeah, and certainly some of our friends, some of our family that have served. A huge acknowledgement to them and what they've done as well. So with that being said, the pike ahead, what we're looking forward to this week, pretty much games on the schedule every night between the Celtics and the Bruins. And we'll recap the week that was on next week's episode. And then the Patriots with a home game versus the Rams.
The Rams.
The Rams,
The
as Hardy
Rams.
would say. So hopefully they can build off this win versus Chicago. Anything else on the Pike, boys, before we wrap it up?
Well,
Eric and I are in a tight match, so let's see what happens.
Ooh, coming
All
down
right,
to Monday Night Football.
Sam, you got it, my friend. Don't worry. My team, we
Nope,
suck again.
nope. Not saying anything till it's over. Nope.
just another shout out to Jeff Kolb. That was a awesome
Seriously.
interview that we had with him.
Oh, yeah.
The Bruins actually are playing at Dallas on Thursday, so that's kind of cool. He'll probably get to cover that game and watch a childhood team that he enjoyed watching growing up.
Indeed.
And this dude,
Thanks to
Monty.
Jeff.
I have one little tidbit about the Pats game on Sunday. Just want to throw in how this is a definitely winnable game, and the schedule makers really helped us out because the Rams are playing tonight on Monday Night Football, and then they have to fly east.
Short
and
week.
a short week and an early Monday, early 1 o'clock game, which is 10 a.m. West Coast time, which their bodies will be on. So, very winnable game on a short week. So, just want to point
Does
that out.
anybody know where they're staying as far as the hotel? Maybe we could, I don't know.
No.
I'm just
we
kidding.
don't get
Just
into
kidding.
any of
I'm
that.
just kidding. It's a joke.
I hear they stay at the Renaissance in Providence, but don't tell me. I don't really know that, but
Who knows? Who knows?
Shout out Renaissance.
We kid.
All right, gentlemen, a great time with you as always. This is going to do it for this episode of the Boston Sports Brothers podcast. Thank you for tuning in, near, far, wherever you are. We'll see you next time.
Adios.
Bye,
amigos.
Latos.
See y'all.
later.
Peace.